All these state-owned enterprises that today are in the reds, all these agencies that we complain about, inefficiency, mismanagement, and what have you, is due to one thing: lack of leadership. Because people appointed to these state institutions believe that they earned the appointment not necessarily because they merit it, because of the capacity they have to transform these institutions, but they earned it because of the work that they put into the political party. And so when they get there, for many of them, the sense of entitlement, and they feel that we're all part of the war. It is about time we all enjoy the spoils of war. We must be honest about this conversation. And that is why I think that even as we applaud President Mahama for appointing young, ambitious people to head some of these critical state institutions, we must also demand for clear KPIs to be set for them. So if, for example, my friend, and I'll use him as an example because I have so much confidence in what he's capable of doing, Edmond Combat, going to tour as deputy MD. Edmond Combat, with all his expertise and what he has been able to do in the private sector and institutions that he has transformed, heading into tour, he should have KPIs that are measurable. So at the end of a certain period, say 1 year, 2 years, we know that this is the situation he met and this is what they've been able to do. And so when you don't have KPIs, clear goals for these individuals to go into these institutions, many of them go, they maintain the status quo, and at the end of the day, the institutions continue to sink. We must begin to set clear KPIs for people we are appointing to head these state institutions. Number two is that we also need to have a proper conversation on whether or not all the agencies or all the state-owned enterprises, especially the non-core ones, the ones that are not providing any essential service, must necessarily be owned by the state. Because how reasonable is it that you have an institution like Airtel Tigo making losses, Cocobot making losses, ECG, and when you look at the situation of ECG, for example, it is nothing but mismanagement and pure thievery, corruption. Because, for example, when you look at the guidelines, ECG, as we speak, is not maintaining a consolidated account. You have, from the last audit report, several accounts with different banks, and all these accounts, there are many shortfalls in accounting for some of the revenue that gets into the account of ECG, when indeed the law, the guideline is that maintain a consolidated account for proper accounting. And nobody gets punished. We talk about it, and those who manage the place, those who mismanage the place, they will go home and enjoy whatever they have looted, and nobody is being punished for it. I think that the reset agenda, which President Mahama is committed to, must begin with our state-owned enterprises. The newly appointed CEOs, I keep telling them that when you get into office, take proper stock of the situation you met. Clearly define for yourself the goals for the organization in line with the promises of President John Dramani Mahama. Restructure the place where it is necessary for you to engage in public-private partnership, PPPs, for you to perform to expectation, do so. But when you go and you want to maintain a certain, this is the culture that we met, and you want to maintain that culture has failed to produce the results. And that is why it is good that it is young people that are being appointed to those places. And already we can see signs of progress in many of these institutions. I was speaking to a friend yesterday. He works with NPA. Within this short period, he gives me a very glowing picture of the kind of leadership and the transformation that they are beginning to see under the leadership of Eduji Tamekulu. And I told him that it is because Eduji knows that as a young person, he owes it as a responsibility, civic duty to this nation to leave NPA at a better place than he came to meet it. And that is why it is good that young people are appointed for this position. Okay. But there must be a national policy guiding how these places are managed. And that must begin with setting out the KPIs. Okay. So that when you are appointed, you are engaged on a certain contract. You know what is expected of you. If you fail to meet it, you are sacked from the organization. So that people will not stay in leadership of these state institutions with the belief that it is because it is my political party that is in power, or as long as my party is in power, my continuous stay in the office is guaranteed.